Welcome back to the College Football Pick'em Pod. For anybody hoping to see Will's beautiful face, you're going to have to stare at a white dot. And if you're listening to this on audio, well, you don't want to see Will's beautiful face anyway. We are back to discuss Week 10 of the college football season.
Week 11.
Whatever. Week 10, Week 11. It doesn't really matter.
Week 2.
Week 2. Yeah, exactly.
Week 4.
No SEC for some people. We have pretty much no SEC games this week. After last week on this podcast, I said that I thought we were done canceling games. And now I think there's 145,000 coronavirus cases a day. So I'm assuming that's going to bleed into some of the colleges. And
it already has. The SEC is being wiped out right now when it comes to their schedule this week. And that's usually one of my favorite places to go. That's where I've been the most successful out of all the conferences this season. And so I actually have very few picks. I was scraping to get something together. And even the picks I have, I don't like that much. So, take that with what you will. This is bad. I could not find an underdog that I like this week.
Wow.
Hopefully you can talk me into. I was trying, man. It's I have this feel the way I'm viewing these teams. It's almost especially during this COVID, this era. This is so weird. It's I feel like we're getting to the point where the teams that are out of it are just giving up completely. I don't know if you saw, FSU is just giving up completely. Or their quarterback is just opting out for the rest of the season. We're seeing a lot of opt-outs from players where their teams just aren't doing that well. I know last week, one of Pitt's best defensive players, they're leading, senior safety or whatever. It's no, I'm out. We lost 3 games in a row. I'm out. So I think you're going to start seeing teams just kind of throw in the towel here, because usually if you're 0-3 or maybe you're 2-4, you got a lot of the season left, but you don't now. Now it's they're calling it, they're going to throw it in way earlier. So it's hard for me right now to find underdogs that I like, because I'm I can't trust them that they even want to play or they want to be here.
Well, that's the hardest part just with this season as a whole, and that's always the biggest problem with college football in general. And it's the problem with NCAA sports, in my opinion, is that NCAA sports don't have a set number of games. And I do think that that's an issue for NCAA sports, even outside of the time of COVID. But now, especially during the time of COVID, when there is no, okay, we're going to play this many games and this is what we're going to do, it becomes really problematic. Look at the NFL. The thing is, at the end of the day, that the NFL is going to play 16 games this year. Now, maybe that'll be the jinx. Maybe I jinxed college football last week, and maybe I'm jinxing pro football this week. But the way that we're seeing it play, they want to play all 16 games, and all the teams are fighting to hit 16 games. So we have kind of what we need to hit there. We need to hit 16 games. Got to be in the top 7, possibly the top 8 this year if they do try to drag it out in your conference. And therefore, you make the playoffs, and then you go from there. The problem with college football is, and with college basketball and all the other sports, is you could play 10 games, you could play 13 games, you could play 12 games, and you could play 11 games. Army, Navy, Air Force, sometimes, especially Air Force, they play 3 or 4 games. It's so arbitrary. And then you get into a situation where things are constantly fluctuating and things are moving around, and we don't know what's going to happen. And are they going to cancel a game? And what's going to happen here? And is Wisconsin going to play this weekend? And all of that. And you just break it all down and you look at how it's actually shaping up. And I think that part of the difficulty comes from the fact that we don't know how many games you're supposed to play anyway. So now if you're a senior who's been told by the NCAA, hey, if you only play 3 games this year, we'll give you eligibility next year.
I think it's for everybody. I think the season is wiped for everyone, even if you play a full 8-game schedule or 10-game schedule, wherever they have. I think they've just said hey, chalk this one up as just kind of a free year. If you want to come back and play, you're free to do so. At least that was my understanding. Maybe there is a certain number of games. But you're right. It's there. Everything is in flux, and it makes it really difficult. And the problem that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these teams are going to come out and play for something, for pride. But with what happened last week was a big week for underdogs. At least when the games I took, I had 3 underdogs last week. They all hit. I had what did I have? I had, Liberty plus 15. They win that game.
The easiest bet.
They win that game outright. I had Florida. They win that game outright. I had West Virginia. They should have won that game outright, but they
that was crazy.
Did cover. Yeah, there's that fourth down pass interference in the end zone that the guy gets tackled. They don't call it. Whatever.
Yeah.
All those dogs covered, and my picks, my losing picks were often favorites that I took. Miami didn't cover. Oklahoma State didn't cover. Clemson obviously didn't cover. They lose outright. So when I looked at this week, I was like, okay, let's see.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. That's what I got there. Let's see. And I agree. Let's see.
I'm falling into the trap.
There you go. You're back.
I'm calling it now. I'm falling into a trap this week.
What is the trap that you're falling into? We heard you. We lost you for a second there, but what's the trap you're falling into?
I'm going to take these favorites because the spreads are so low, or I think these spreads should be higher for the favorites that I'm taking. And I can't will myself to take the other side, because if I were going to take the other side in a lot of these bets, I just need more points from the spread, and it's not being given to me. So let's see. I mean, maybe it was an underdog week last week, and it will be a favorites week this week. That's what I'm seeing, because it is these lines do surprise me. So and I'm sure it's a trap, and we'll see. This is definitely, without a doubt, my least favorite week this season, and maybe out of the 3 seasons we've been doing this podcast, I have very little confidence, and I have very few bets, and we can talk about it. Maybe you can talk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like this week. I'll be completely honest. And it's not only that I don't like this week, it's that in general, I'm not really liking this season. This season's problematic for me, and especially from a betting standpoint, I find this to be very troublesome, because what's happening is we're starting to kind of figure out what's going on in the ACC. And I know at the beginning, Will, you had said, I don't want to bet anything with the ACC. I don't trust the ACC. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of am getting a good read on the ACC. I look at some of my paid bets for this week, which the link is below. A lot of that takes place in the ACC because I feel like I've gotten a good read on the ACC. The Big Ten, I really don't know yet. I was on Penn State last week, and I was idiotic. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I know.
See, so I can't see Will this time, and that's why it's difficult. So I don't know if he's freezing or if he's not, or if he's trying to butt in. I think right now he's frozen because I think he was trying to make a point, and now he's gone. But when I look at what's going on with the Big Ten, I just don't trust so much of the Big Ten because they haven't played that many games. And then you look at the Pac-12, I have no idea. And so I've just kind of started to hit the point of, is this college football season actually enjoyable from a betting standpoint? I mean, watching college football is always a great time. I will say that. But is this season actually fun from a betting standpoint? Or is it just you're trying to throw something at the wall and see what sticks? I mean, if I had to pick right now, I have my 5 paid bets for the week. I wouldn't pick another bet. I mean, what I'm about to talk about on this podcast is going to be a hell of a lot of going, I don't know. I feel that maybe. Yeah, it's kind of what I don't have great reads right now. And I think it's just because some teams are 2 games in, some teams are 9 games in, some teams are 6 games in. So it's just too all over the place. And it's such a chaotic mess. And look, I'll be so excited when they are able to finish the season and we're able to crown a national champion and all of that. Cause I do think that all of that stuff is going to happen. Much like I think the NFL is going to have no problem finishing their season and we're going to crown a champion there. I think we're going to crown champions all over the place, mainly because we saw with the shutdown for NBA and all that, we could have kept playing those games. And I think that's why ultimately we'll keep going. But from a betting standpoint, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, it's difficult. And like this Wisconsin-Michigan game, we still don't know if Graham Mertz is going to be able to play quarterback.
Mm-hmm. And if Graham Mertz does play quarterback, that's the easiest spread of all time. I'm going to put $10 on Wisconsin anyway. I'm going to say Wisconsin is one of my bets. They're minus 4.5 right now. And I think it's ridiculous. I think Wisconsin at minus 4.5 is ridiculous.
But what if they do play Graham Mertz because he did look so good and he is their starter this season, but he hasn't been practicing for the past 3 weeks. He hasn't been with the team. He hasn't been able to go through the playbook and the reps. And what if Michigan, they're angry after their 2 losses and they're ready to fight. So who knows? No.
Yeah, I would give the edge to Mertz there, considering Michigan's pretty bad. Michigan's looks pretty bad.
Yeah, they are pretty bad. And that's one. I mean, we don't know if that game will go. Like, so it's supposedly trending up, and Wisconsin's going to play. And we'll get into our picks. I don't want to be too downer here. I'm saying this week, I mean, it'll be fun. It'll be fun as always. Like you said, watching football is always fun. So this week, let's not get too down on it. Maybe this will be our biggest week yet. Maybe because we're really looking at things here going, I don't know, and we have to kind of go with maybe our gut or really our instincts, and maybe that will guide us in some way that, we've been looking, I don't know, at other things too much. So this should be fun. Before we kick it off, BetBuds, Phil, you had a big week on BetBuds, didn't you?
For college, actually. That's what's hilarious is I kind of just started throwing out random things and nailed it last week. I was great on college last week, and BetBuds is great. I loved being there for the first weekend of it, and yeah, I was cleaning up on your one friend who should be a part of everybody's group. If you guys all need one terrible bettor who just makes everybody else look really, really good.
Yeah, I won some bets against him. I know who you're talking about. You were also at one point up like +7 units on me, and then I rattled off like 4 straight wins.
You killed me at Nutty. Yeah. You killed me. You got 3 straight on the NFL. My NFL reads. This was the first bad week I've had in the NFL. I was doing really well. I was 12-5 in the last 3 weeks, and then this week it was like a 2-4 week or something along those lines. So it wasn't a good week with 10-1 on props, which is insane, but that doesn't happen on BetBuds. But yeah, you killed me 3 in a row there, and I literally just wanted night action on the Washington State, Oregon State game, and I honestly, those might not even be the 2 teams who played each other because I didn't watch it. I was just like,
Washington State, they looked pretty good. I was happy with that one. But if you don't know what we're talking about, we're talking about BetBuds, a group chat for betting, so you can bet with your friends with no.
Oh, he was just about to get into his ad read too, and then his internet bailed on him. His internet, they're listening. All the Vegas bookies are like, nah, we don't want you to say what BetBuds is. BetBuds is going to bankrupt us, and we don't like that. BetBuds is really great though, and when Will comes back, I'm sure he'll interrupt.
Am I not back? I feel like I'm here.
I can't see you, so go talk. I can't
I'm just
see
saying,
you.
check it out. BetBuds.net. Bet with your friends, commission free. Phil took some money off me this week, but so far I'm looking good. I got you on, what was that, Monday Night Football? I took the Jets, if you can believe it, and the Jets covered.
That was a horrible football game, man. That was a horrible football game.
All right, let's get into this week's
Let's get into it. All right, is Hank Bachmeier playing?
I mean, I still don't know. I still don't know. And I mean, BYU, damn, looking great. Yeah. And I know BYU or Boise State isn't like fully there, and they're just starting their season. But like that was part of the prediction last week is that BYU, they played 7 games. Like they're going to be ready. This is what they've been building up to in getting ready for this Boise State team who is just starting to start their season, and they don't have everything figured out yet. Plus they're dealing with some injury and COVID stuff. So BYU really came through. They're looking great. Zach Wilson for Heisman, man. I know he's not going to win. I hope he gets the invite to New York though. I think that'd be fun for that BYU program over there.
I agree. And I would lean Boise State here, but if Hank Bachmeier doesn't play, that team really does not have much of an offense without him. They really don't. And I know they were playing BYU last week.
Jack Sears or something, he at least wasn't supposed to be so bad. He's supposed to be a viable option, but yeah, Bachmeier is their guy.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm not feeling that. So I'm not going to have any action for Thursday night. We'll have to stick solely with the Colts versus the Titans. At least we're getting a good NFL game this week. So I have no action on that college game. Do you have action? No.
Action, which is rare for me.
Yeah. You can't help it. You can't help it. All right. Let's do Friday then. Let's go to Friday. Let's talk a little bit about Friday.
Go for it.
Will, so it's Friday the 13th, which is fitting. Friday the 13th in 2020 is a terrifying idea. But hey, it is what it is. I have one of my paid plays here, and it's in the Iowa-Minnesota game. And I want to see what your take is on this Iowa-Minnesota game, because I won't give mine, but what are you feeling for this game right now?
Get out of here with this game. I don't want any part of this game.
Interesting.
These are teams that I cannot trust. I mean, Iowa put a beat down on Michigan State. Minnesota got their first win, but it's against an Illinois team that has shown nothing all season. I mean, what which way are you going? I mean, I don't know how you could feel confident about either side in this matchup. If I had to go for it, I mean, I guess I would go Iowa because at least their losses have been close to good teams, whereas Minnesota got spanked by Michigan, and we now know Michigan is actually terrible. And then obviously Minnesota lost to Maryland, but Maryland maybe isn't so bad as we thought. Tua's brother, hey, yeah. he might really be Tua's brother. He might be.
Well, I'm just glad that Will gave me all the confidence I needed because, he talked me out of taking Iowa last week. So I don't think he has a read on an Iowa or Minnesota game at all this year.
I really don't. Yeah. And if I had to choose, what's the spread at for that right now?
4. Iowa's favored by 4.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to take Minnesota. I'm not trusting Minnesota. Like, is anyone watching Minnesota versus Illinois and be like, oh yeah, Minnesota, they figured it out? It's like, how could you say that? How could you be confident in that? And on the other end, are you really going to take an Iowa team that, they looked good against Michigan State, who is, Michigan State, let's not forget that they lost to.
Yeah. Hey, Rutgers, though. Hey, Rutgers covered, and that was one of the bets I beat Will on this week on BetBuds, is Rutgers covered against Ohio State this past weekend.
I know, and I was so surprised. You tossed that bet into the chat, and I'm like, wait, you're offering this up to me? I mean, you baited me perfectly. I was like, of course I'm taking Rutgers against Phil. I mean, Ohio State was up, I think they're up like 42-9. Obviously, that's not covering 38, but they were up 42-9, and then just kind of like, oh, all right, we're just going to let Rutgers rattle off a bunch of scores, and they let Rutgers score 27. That was going to be a game I looked at, actually, Maryland, Ohio State, but that game's now canceled. I was going to really consider looking at Maryland covering 25 just because of what Maryland's been able to do on offense recently. And Ohio State's weakness is their defense right now. And they've, in fourth quarters, really, it's like they'll be fine. Like even in that Penn State game, they had a very comfortable lead, but then they lose the fourth quarter because they're kind of like, hey, we just need to get out with a win. And the other team's, trying to just muster something together. So that would have been a look for me to actually take Maryland, but another game canceled by COVID.
Yeah, I agree. That was one I was looking at too. And this is what we were kind of talking about in previous weeks with Ohio State. They got to beat everybody as bad as they can possibly beat everybody because you don't know how many games you're going to play this year. And here's Ohio State sitting at number 3 in the country. Clemson just lost, but Ohio State's only played 3 games. Are they going to put in a team that only plays 3 or 4 games over a team that, ends up playing 8 or 9 or 10 and goes undefeated? I don't know. I mean, that's a really tricky scenario that the College Football Playoff Committee is going to have to deal with. And I don't know how they're going to handle it, but that's the only game that I was looking at on Friday night. Is there any others that you're like, I really can't wait to bet Friday night? Are you looking at this Cincinnati game?
I'm looking and I'm just not seeing anything that's jumping out to me. I don't like, even when I say like I like having action on the weeknights, I don't just say, okay, I'm going to bet at least one game Friday, at least one game Thursday. There has to be something there that is kind of tasty to me that stands out where, hey, I think there's some value in this line. I looked at the lines. I looked at the totals. Just nothing. I mean, just nothing is talking to me, man. And that's kind of, it goes into Saturday too. Now, thank God on Saturday there are more options, but it's getting a little dicey out here to find things that are jumping out. Like, ooh, why is this way? Let me look into this. Is this matchup going to be exploited? This defense versus this offense? It's just nothing on Friday or in that game Thursday. Obviously, just nothing's jumping out.
So let's go to Saturday then. Saturday morning at the 9 a.m. slot, the early slot. 3 of my plays of the week are at this slot. And I want to talk about this Miami-Virginia Tech game. Miami did not look great against NC State, but man, did we score. And it's very rare that we're actually able to outscore another team. Our defense did not look good. Bailey Hockman had a field day against us, all of that. But the fact that De'Aaron King was able to finally have like that breakout, thank God kind of game where it was like, all right, we needed you. You bailed out the defense. Because how many times has the defense bailed out the offense in all these last games? Why are we underdogs going to Blacksburg where there's no fans?
First of all, let me kind of recap where I was at because I thought I had a great play on this game. I was excited about it last week. I said, okay, let's bet Miami to cover and let's also take the under because likely it goes 1-1. You have a pretty good shot at 2-0, but a very, very unlikely shot at 0-2. And that's because the only unit out of those teams I trusted was Miami's defense. Now, Miami's defense has been consistent. They've been good all season. Of course, Miami's defense has the worst game they played in maybe like 2, 3, 4 seasons. Like I know Clemson has put up some big numbers, but that's Clemson with the talent they have on offense. It's a little bit forgivable. this NC State team with the backup quarterback, I mean, like you said, Bailey Hockman was shredding our defense, and I still don't know if he's all that good. Our defense did not come to play. So, hey, I was excited about those picks. Now, this is a weird line to me. I get where this is coming from. I mean, you look, Miami is number 9, and Virginia Tech's not ranked, so it's like, why is Virginia Tech the favorite here? Like, I get they're at home, but when you look into it, I mean, Miami, in all like the S&P Plus and the ratings and computers and algorithms, like all those people who do like the power ratings for teams and all that, and I'm sure your guy at the form site link that you do stats with, like they all have Miami sitting at like maybe in the top 20. If that, I think S&P Plus, Miami's at 22nd in the country. So like the computers don't like us. And I think the NC State game has a lot to do with it because we did not our defense performed very poorly. And that was probably like our defense had been off. So we dropped probably a lot. But what I'll say is that this line is begging you to take Miami plus 2.5. And that worries me when I think a lot of the public is going to look at this. They're going to see Miami's number 9 in the AP poll. Virginia Tech, like I said, unranked. It's not even like they're
4-3. They're not even that good of a team. You know, they're not even sitting in a good spot, Virginia Tech. They're coming off a loss to Liberty. And
lost
one of the
against
big
Wake Forest.
Yeah, that's true too. And one of the big things about going to Virginia Tech is, you know, enter Sandman and all the craziness that goes on being at the stadium. I mean, that stadium is electric. That stadium is insane and it's fun and it's exciting. And the one thing I will say is I see this game going almost identically to how last week's game against NC State went. I think that we are just going to put up a crap ton of points, and they are going to put up a crap ton of points against us. That's what I'm saying. I just think this is going to keep going.
See, I don't know what to. The spread scares me, like I'm saying, and then this total is super high, and I kind of get it. But do you think this is the question, and maybe we have to talk this out? Was the defensive performance from Miami hey, they just didn't show up Friday night game? They didn't give NC State, you know, any credit, overlooked them, whatever. One game, they've been good all season. They're going to be back on track against Virginia Tech. They got their scare. That's one way to look at it. That's where I'm leaning. Like, I still feel like I can trust this defense. They've been solid all season long, and why hop off of them just from one bad performance? So, or you could look at it like, man, this defense got exposed. The book is out on them. Like, there's all this tape on like our shortcomings, like how to get through the second. I mean, a lot of the plays we weren't just making tackles. Like, we just weren't tackling in the open field. A lot of big plays we gave up where they got chunk yardage, which is usually not, you know, something that we give up a ton of. I mean, we might give up here or there, but not like just bam, bam. I mean, like they would move it down the field so.
It was methodical. It was honestly like embarrassing how easy it was for them to move the ball against us.
It was shocking to me. And that's why it's like, is that what Miami's defense is, or is it something like we've seen, you know, something closer to what we've seen in the other games? So that's my question. I don't know if I have the answer, but I would lean towards, hey, that was a game where they just totally overlooked NC State on the road. They're going to get reamed all week long. They know they got to go on the road again against Virginia Tech, who, you know, again, they're not like having a great season, but it is a Virginia Tech program that usually performs pretty well. So I don't know. I like to think the Miami's defense wakes up, and that I would go on the under 67.5, because if Miami's defense gets it together, this game goes under, because I don't know if Miami's offense is always going to play like that. They were forced to. NC State forced Miami to press the ball down the field, to go vertically, which Miami might not have done if you had seen NC State struggle on offense a bit. So I think that was a nature of NC State scoring. And I don't know if that's like Miami's offense that's never been their MO. And so I think they got forced into that because they were down and NC State was scoring at such a rapid rate.
Yeah, and I would say, I know last week you went under and Miami to cover. I actually think over and Miami to cover is kind of the move in this game, because Virginia Tech's defense hasn't been able to stop anybody all season. So if Miami's defense can get things under control, this game goes under. But that also means Miami's going to cover, because Miami's going to score against Virginia Tech's defense, because Virginia Tech's defense can't stop anybody. We might be able to go throw touchdowns against Virginia Tech's defense right now. They can't stop anybody.
Just 67.5. Like, this game can go like, 35-27. You're not getting to 67.5.
Well, what I'm saying is if you go both, you're pretty much guaranteed at least 1-1.
Right. No, I'm not thinking about going both this week. I was just really looking at this under. Like if Miami's defense, if that was an anomaly, then this under is very safe. But if that's where we're at defensively right now, then obviously it's pretty scary. So I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I don't really have, yeah, that's it. Do you have a play here that you're going to do or no?
I'm going to go $10. I'm going to go on the under. It's just too high. It's too high for a Miami defense that they've shown us too much this season. And if this happens again and they burn me, well, then we have to reevaluate and maybe they become just a great over team. And their games have gone over a lot this year, and we've bet on some of the overs, but the numbers have been like 20, like the Pitt one was like 47.5. Yeah. And the Virginia one was in, I think, like 51 or something. That game went under. We were on the under. So I think the 67.5 is just an overreaction.
Agreed.
And I don't know if Miami's offense is going to look like it did against NC State because it might not have to. And that's really kind of a big part of this too. But all right, that's where we're at with the Canes. Where else do you want to go?
Penn State, Nebraska. Do you have anything on this? I'm avoiding them. I hate both of these teams, but do you have anything?
I mean, these are two teams that have yet to win. Like one of these teams has to win a game this season. I would lean Penn State here, but I fear they might be in the throw in the towel mode. Like I think Sean Clifford, I don't know. Penn State might be looking to their backup quarterback. Sean Clifford was missing like wide open guys against Maryland. He did not look good. They're 0-3, and this is a team that probably had at least Big Ten championship aspirations, if not playoff aspirations. And imagine being this team now sitting 0-3, and during COVID, you have every excuse to be like, nah, man, I'm out. Like, just I'm done. And Nebraska is a program needing wins. Like, they need every win they can get because at least Penn State has had some good years. Like, James Franklin's been there a while, and it has gotten them, a Big Ten championship and have had great seasons. Where on the other side, you have Scott Frost, who has this is his third season now. And his third, fourth? I think it's his third.
Third, right? I think it's his third.
And has yet to have any success remotely. So I feel like they're starving for a win against a Penn State team that's kind of saying, hey, this season, toss it out. Like, we're just not counting this season. So I don't know. From a football standpoint, you've got to like Penn State. What is it, -3.5? Like, that's a pretty small number for a Penn State team that, has recruited way better, has performed way better, and against a Nebraska team that has shown us absolutely nothing to have any confidence in them. But again, this is one I stay away from. There's nothing. I cannot be confident taking Nebraska. My lean would be Penn State, and I don't want to take Penn State right now. Like, they might not show up. So I can't play this.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take either side. I just wanted to kind of hear you talk through it because it is going to be a bigger game of the weekend, one of the bigger Big Ten games. So I know that people will be looking at it, but I don't like either side either. I got burned on Penn State last week, and they lost that game by a lot. They were never even in it. And I'm worried that maybe they just suck. Maybe they're just bad this year, Michigan, the year they lost to Appalachian State, Michigan, they were just a bad team that year. They really were.
Yeah, and they had some opt-outs also. I know Journey Brown, their running back, is not playing at all this season. I'm sure that's not helping them. And I don't know what's going on in that locker room when you're sitting at 0-3. It's just, is it one of those teams like we need a win really badly and this is a great spot to take them because they're hungry, or is it a team that's given up? And this is what I'm having an issue with, especially taking these teams that haven't performed well. Is it time to give up yet? Because sometimes it's early, but man, I don't know. I don't know, man. That's why I said I could not find it. I could not find an underdog. I looked. I scanned. I had teams. I couldn't do it.
Well, I'll tell you. I have Kentucky -16.5 against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt should not have covered against Mississippi State last week. Once again, I kind of got burned in this whole have a team who's up 17 points about to cover a 19-point spread, and they just absolutely fall apart. Kentucky's defense is so good. Vanderbilt's probably not going to score in this game. So I would say that, honestly, I'm going to do Kentucky -16.5, and I'm going to do the under, even though it's only at 42, because if Vanderbilt scores more than 7 in this game, I will be absolutely shocked. I will be shocked. So I like the under too.
I got $15 on the under. I really like this under. I mean, basically, you have the second worst offense in the SEC. I think Mississippi State is clearly.
Mississippi State's an absolute disaster. It doesn't matter who's playing quarterback for them. I mean, last week was pitiful, that performance. It was just absolutely
They almost
awful.
did cover, like you said. That's how bad Vandy is. I mean, Vandy's right there. So I put them at second worst offense in the SEC. And then I think Kentucky, you can feel pretty good about calling them, the second best defense, maybe the third.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're a top 3 SEC defense. So like you said, I peg Vandy here at somewhere between 0 and 10 points. The shutout is absolutely in the works. And even if they hit a high of like 17, which I do not foresee happening, let's say Vandy somehow puts up 17 points. This Kentucky offense has not been, hasn't been good at all this season. They've had games where they put up like 3 or 6 points, and they're not a team that even when they play their best, if Kentucky's playing their best football, they won't be scoring that quickly. So they're going to be in the trenches. They're going to be running the ball. They're going to be killing clock. And even if they're doing that effectively, you're still going to see, 4 or 5 minute drives. Even like if Vandy is not playing their best, they're not really a big play offense that's going to just wipe out Vanderbilt. So I really do like this under. I'm looking at maybe like, even if at a high, like the high is like 31-10 maybe. Like I don't even see Kentucky scoring 31 points. And like you said, I'm with you, man. This is like when you have this great of a chance of a shutout, you definitely have to look under here. So I'm going under 42.
Well, and we always like to play the game of guess the score. Because if it's a 17-point spread, what score are they considering for 42 points? And what they're considering is 31-14. Which doesn't even make sense. So it has to be lower than that. It's kind of like 30 to
28 to 12-ish range.
Yeah, like it's not a real football score. Yeah. It's not a real football score. 29-12, 29-12, 30-12 is kind of what they're saying, which isn't a real football score. So when I look at it that way, that means that I could get University of Kentucky with 31 points and Vandy scores 10 and I still hit the under. I don't really see a situation where Vandy scores more than 10. And even if this is like an insane blowout, it's going to be probably right at that 42 number at most.
Sure.
For Kentucky, and it could be 42-0.
Yeah, or like 38-0. Like that's fully possible here. There's more value on this. Like if it goes over, you're going to be like, oh my God, how did that go over?
There are ways 30 points. You're not going to be sitting there going, ugh.
There are ways it can go over, but the value is certainly in the under with the possibility of that goose egg from Vandy. So I'm with you on that. I'm just on the under though. I don't trust Kentucky enough to score to cover 17 points.
See, I do. You know what? I don't trust Kentucky enough normally, but against Vanderbilt, I would trust us. I would trust you and me to go out there and throw the pigskin around a little bit and put up some points against Vanderbilt. So
toss it around.
Tossing around the old pigskin. What other games you got at this time? I know I've rattled off a couple here. Really, the only bets I've talked about are Kentucky, but what else you got?
This is one where this could be a trap too. A lot of my games, I'm like, I feel like I'm falling into the trap, but I'm not. I'm still gonna hold to my values here. I'm gonna keep rolling with Coastal Carolina. This is a team that you just keep on rolling with, and they keep punching your ticket. So, they're 5-1-1 against the spread this season. I know, Phil, you were a little wary, like, hey, they're in the top 25. They got all this hype, and they have not fallen out of the top. What are they, like 16 or 15?
Yeah, they're moving up.
They're moving up. The teams keep losing. They keep winning, and they win pretty handily too. And I know we like their offense. I know you took their team over in that Georgia State game. They absolutely obliterated it. They got it in the first half. We've liked this offense, but their defense has really stepped up here. In their last 3 games, I think they've given up a total of 20 points in the last 3 games. So less than 3 touchdowns. And so if their defense is playing like they've been playing, and their offense we like, I don't know. This is a team where you just I'm just rolling with them. I got 10 on it because my big thing here is I just haven't watched Troy play that much football this season. Yeah. I don't know a ton about Troy. Troy is at home here.
Yeah, I hear you. And I also have 10 on Coastal just because they're Coastal. And it's just a team right now. Like they're starting to see the finish line here. They're number 15, right? They're 7-0. They're starting to move up the rankings in a meaningful fashion. And they realize they could finish this season in the top 10 because with how much craziness is going on around them, they want to make sure that they're above Marshall, who is 6-0. I know that the whole New Year's Six thing and everything's a mess this year. They're probably not going to catch up to BYU.
4 of those teams. Yeah, we have BYU, Cincinnati, Marshall, and Coastal Carolina, all group of 5 or independents, not named Notre Dame, that are undefeated. And
Liberty.
And Liberty, that's right. We have 5 of them, also an independent there. And it's pretty late into the season. This is week 11, and I know some teams have played more games than others. Some teams are just getting started. But, we have a lot to look at.
Well, and when you look at those teams, and I lost you there. So when we look at those teams, you have Cincinnati 6-0, BYU's 8-0, Marshall 6-0, Coastal 7-0, and Liberty is 7-0. And I know that they're maybe not playing the normal schedule they would play, where they're playing 3 Power Fives or 2 Power Fives in a crappy team, and then their whole conference. But still, like, they've beaten legitimate teams. I mean, Liberty has beaten up on the ACC. It's not like they haven't played real teams. And granted, Syracuse isn't very good, but they still went up to Syracuse and won. They went to Virginia Tech and won. Like, it's not like they're messing around over here. If you're looking at these teams aren't beating up on garbage.
Yeah, Liberty you give a little bit more credit to because they've had those ACC games scheduled. I'm not sure. I mean, BYU hasn't played a Power 5 opponent. Not that it's their fault, but in a season where...
Oh, they've tried, though. They've tried. That's what I look at is they've tried. They were supposed to play a bunch of those teams, and they weren't.
Of course, and we talked about that, and we said they're going to play lights out and do everything they can to blow out teams. We've been on it. What I'm saying is when we have 5 teams undefeated this late in the season that are group of 5 or independent, not named Notre Dame, you understand why, because they haven't had these Power 5 matchups. So I'm not going to blame them for it, but we can sit here and say comfortably that this trend, that there's this many teams this late in the season, that has a big influence on these Power 5 conferences staying within their own conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree.
All right, that being said, I mean, let's just look what Troy's done. They've been pretty much up and down, middling, and they've lost to both Georgia State and Georgia Southern. And remember, Coastal Carolina, they've beaten both those teams. They beat Georgia State 51-0. So Troy is kind of like in the middle right now and like getting some wins, some losses up and down. Like Coastal has been pretty much a straight arrow going up. I know they had that one kind of close scare against Georgia Southern, but that game was kind of always going in Coastal's way. So we'll see. I wish I could get it at 10. I might wait. It's probably going to go up, not down, honestly. But I still like it.
Well, let me ask you about the other one, and then let's move on to some other games where we actually have bets, because I don't have one here, but maybe you do. Liberty, do you have anything on them as massive favorites over a terrible Western Carolina team? And I think he is missing. Oh, there he is. What do you got?
I'm not going to take either side of this just because Liberty is, again, they have these Power 5 conference matchups on their schedule where they've gone on the road and won. And those are big deals. Those are big games. And to come off of those and now you're, going to go back and play Western Carolina. Like, I just don't know if they need to cover 33 points. And I'm obviously not going to bet against Liberty here. So, no, I don't have anything on that. I do have, I believe this is a noon game, Indiana, Michigan State. Do you have anything on this?
That is one of my paid plays, so go ahead.
Okay. So, again, like I said, I had been fishing around for some underdogs, but nothing came. And this one, again, like this is my notion, this whole theme of this week is all of my bets sounds like traps, but even though I'm aware of that, I cannot talk myself out of them.
Oh, no, I lost him. He's in a trap. That's what we got to, everybody. We got to Will is in a trap. Where's he at?
It's trap week, man.
There he is. He's back. He's trapped by the internet, too. Keep going. What do you got?
I got Indiana -10, okay? And I know it's a trap.
-10? I see it at 7.
Wait, what? Down to 7?
It's down to 7.
Uh-oh. It's like Penix Jr. out or something?
I don't know. Let me look this up because now you got me confused.
Now I'm like, I saw this at 10. And I was like, I still like it.
It's at 7. I'm seeing it at 7, and I'm not seeing Michael Penix Jr. is injured.
I'm again, I'm at a loss here because if anything, I thought this might go up. I mean, here's where I'm at. Like, we have to start trusting teams that are playing well and performing well. And Indiana did not look great in their Penn State win, but hey, they still won the game and they were hanging with Penn State. And now we know Penn State might be trash. But I don't know. Penn State, it's like if they won against Indiana and maybe if they were a little closer to Ohio State and they found a way to be like Penn State's season has gone so off the rails that I don't know if their record is totally indicative of how they are as a football team week 1. Like I think they've gotten worse throughout the season. Let's say that. But they stopped Michigan. They handled Michigan and they handled Michigan much easier than Michigan State handled Michigan. And I know, so both these teams have a common opponent in Michigan. one of them, I mean, Michigan had a chance to kind of tie up the game late, and then the other one, Indiana blew Michigan out of the water. Like it wasn't like a huge difference in score, but they were in control the entire game. Indiana's offense, especially, they are able to move the ball.
And I lost him again. Yeah, Penix Jr. has looked absolutely phenomenal so far this season. He's been really, really great. And so, I mean, what I was going to say, and to Will's point, is sometimes these teams now, we should start giving them a little bit more credit, because if you're looking at what some of these teams are trying to do, you have players on Florida State saying, my season's over, I don't care. You have Penn State saying, whatever, we're 0-3, it doesn't matter. But you have a team like Indiana, where this is their shot. And you know what? It doesn't matter if it's a COVID year. If they're able to go undefeated and play themselves into the national championship picture, that's what this is their time to shine. This is the time to do it. Do it while the chaos is affecting all these other teams that are like, we'll get it next year. And I think that's going to go a long way for some of these teams that are still undefeated and a little bit further down in the rankings.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my point is on taking favorites at this point in the season, is that the favorites have something to play for. They have something that matters.
I'm starting to lose you pretty bad. So he's gone again. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rattle off some of mine real quick, just because we only have a couple more minutes here, 20 more minutes or so. And I'm losing Will a little bit. I do have Arizona at plus 14.5 against USC. I know Arizona hasn't played. USC barely got past Arizona State last week. I only have 10 on that. Again, it's always a $10 bet. And then I also have at that same time.
Can I hop in there? Because I'm on that game too. Am I back?
Go ahead. Yeah, if you're back, you're back. Go.
So here we go. This is the Bet Buds bet of the week, because I disagree with Phil, and I think USC stomps Arizona here. I think they cover. I think they cover the 2 touchdowns. I'd love to get it at 13.5. It's at minus 14.
I'm seeing it at 14.5 on mine.
Oh, well, I have 14 too. So I guess it's not going up. It's not going in my favor.
Well,
but
I'm taking 14.5. That's for sure. I'm not taking 14.
We'll see what it is on kickoff. But as of now, I am rolling with the minus 14. Yeah, USC barely eked that game out, but that was a weird game. There were turnovers. They were like bad play calls on 4th down. The teams were figuring it out. You can tell it was just the first game that.
Yes, it was that first game that. What is going on with Will's internet? Thank gosh it did the no image tonight. Imagine if we had the image going. We wouldn't even know Will at all. Will's going to have to speed through his picks, because if the internet keeps cutting out, none of you are going to want to deal with this at all.
USC has a great – this is what I'm saying. USC has a great offense. I'll get through it quickly. Great offense. Keaton Slovis, those receivers are awesome. They played a great Arizona State team who has an awesome quarterback in Jaden Daniels, and I don't fault USC. It was first game kinks, first game rust, and now they're playing an Arizona team that hasn't played a game this season and was ranked 12th out of 12th by the Pac-12 media poll preseason. I know we don't give credit to that, but we usually don't give credit to it after the teams have played and we've seen them. Mm-hmm. I still am like, if the people that know the Pac-12 the best say that's the worst team in the Pac-12 and they haven't played a game yet, give that to me all day, especially against a USC team that I think has so much talent. They have a lot of skilled players, and I think this is a good opportunity for USC to get things right. They eked out the win. They still have a chance to go undefeated this season, to win the Pac-12. So I see USC blowing the doors off of Arizona State or Arizona.
Love it.
You hear
all
that?
I'm on the other side, but I love everything you said. I understand why you said what you said. I disagree with you, but I don't really have a great argument for why. I have a $10 bet on this because I just think that what I saw from USC last week wasn't very impressive. And based on the Pac-12, I just feel like the Pac-12 is always sloppy, though. I feel like the Pac-12 doesn't get better.
Yeah, we'll see. I think this USC team is different. I think if they do figure some of these things out, and I've said it before, I like taking teams that have played a game versus teams that have yet to play, especially when you have the favorite as the team that's played, because that gap, that first quarter, that second quarter, you might see USC just running away with it. And by the time Arizona figures things out, if they ever do, it might be too late.
Well, I'm going to go with another 2-touchdown dog here at the same time, and I'm going with Boston College against Notre Dame. It's at BC. BC played really well against Clemson and blew it late. And I think that Notre Dame is absolutely set up for a letdown game here. They stormed the field. They had the big celebration. They won the game. They knocked off number one, even though it was without Trevor Lawrence. Don't tell anybody. And I really do believe that they are due for a letdown. I'm not saying they're going to lose the game, but Boston College gets up for big games, and they are going to get up. And Boston College has a lot of talent on that team. I think Notre Dame is just due for a rough first half. I would almost say whatever the first half spread ends up being when the game goes off, take Boston College. I don't care if it's +4. Take Boston College, because I think Notre Dame is due to have a really rough first half this week after coming off that really emotional win. They're now ranked number 2 in the country. I think that this is just ripe for the picking. And I love Boston College at +14 here.
Here's what I have on this game. I have the same things you said. This has trap game written all over it. Notre Dame just beat Clemson double OT, biggest win for the program in a while. And they're stoked. And BC is pesky. Like, we've already seen them give Clemson a scare. But I am on Notre Dame here. I'm seeing it at 13.5. So if it's under 2 touchdowns, this will be another BetBuds bet of the week. Go to betbuds.net to bet on sports with friends. I mean, Notre Dame, it's like the most obvious trap spot, the most obvious letdown spot maybe ever, that they're going to be aware of that. And look who Notre Dame's playing next week. They have a bye. It's not like they're looking they're not looking ahead. They're going on the road. And it's not like BC can sneak up on Notre Dame here. BC already gave Clemson that scare. And in the way Notre Dame's playing right now, the way Brian Kelly is talking about this team, and the way he's like, I saw his post-game press conference. He's like, we have a lot more work to do. We're going to BC next week, who's a very good team. That was like the first thing he said.
It doesn't matter. But he's a professional. The college kids aren't. I always doubt college kids.
I know, but this spot, it's too obvious of a letdown that the coaches in that program and even the players are going to be like, we cannot have a letdown here against Boston College. I think it's one that's so obvious. I mean, you look at this line, 13.5.
I'm seeing it at 14.
I'm just saying, I'm seeing it at 13.5. But whatever it is, 2 touchdowns about. Would you now say, after Clemson Notre Dame game, which was a phenomenal game, I mean, I was on Clemson to cover 5.5, and they were covering with 30 seconds left. I know, screw me. Very well fought game. Amazing college football game. It went on for like 5 hours. But wouldn't you put Notre Dame and Clemson at about the same tier?
Not if Trevor Lawrence is playing.
See, I thought DJ played pretty well. I thought he did.
But that's the thing. DJ played pretty well, but imagine if Trevor Lawrence played in that game.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. But again, I would say, I mean, DJ played against Boston College too. What I want to get at here, because I think Notre Dame is legit. I think it wasn't just because Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence plays Notre Dame.
I still think Notre Dame is a good team. Yeah, I am off of the bandwagon of Notre Dame is garbage.
They were impressive. They were impressive on defense. Their offense looked way better than I've seen it in some time, like against a real defense. So for me, if I'm putting Notre Dame and Clemson on the same tier or close, Notre Dame it was double overtime. They're right neck and neck for me. If Clemson and Boston College were going to play and you saw a 13.5, 14-point spread, your jaw would drop. You would be like, what is this? So I think this spread has already factored in the letdown possibility. It's already factored in that BC is a pesky team. And like I said, Notre Dame's seeing this coming a mile away. It would be one thing if Clemson had just blown out BC and it wasn't even close, and then this team could sneak up, and then the spread would be much larger. But I think the spread is already accounting for the letdown. And I think maybe even if it is a slow first half, the way Notre Dame's playing, the way they're focused, the way they're so disciplined under Brian Kelly right now, I think they cover this. And I think everyone in the world is going to be on Boston College thinking this is a letdown. I'm telling you, man.
See, I disagree because you're thinking like a better, but you're thinking like a better. Rookies don't think like betters. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. We're thinking like betters, but you're saying that you're thinking the rest of the public is thinking like a sharp better. That's not true. The rest of the public is sitting there going, oh my God, Notre Dame by 2 touchdowns. This is the easiest bet. They just beat Clemson. It's too easy. It's too easy. You're overthinking it to the point where you're thinking like a better, and then you're coming back to thinking like a noob. And it's funny. Like you just have to stick with the sharp side.
Again, I'm I've tried, man. I've tried because I saw. I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. Let down. I'm like, this isn't. Notre Dame has this thing totally pegged. Totally pegged. We'll get it. We'll get it in Bet Buds. I mean, I'll take you on.
I'm only going to take it at 14 though. All right. I have three more bets. One of them is also a letdown game. I am going with the statistical anomaly of the college football season. All they do is cover. I'm taking the Hogs. I'm going with Arkansas, covering 17 points against the Florida Gators. The Gators just
happening.
Yeah, it is. Believe it or not, okay. We have a game, guys. We have a game. And I have Arkansas covering. Kyle Trask was phenomenal last week. Georgia got off to the best start they could have possibly asked for, got out to a 14-0 lead, and their defense let them down. Let Florida immediately back into the game, and then there was no challenge after that.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was a great. It was a fun game.
I was on Florida. The Georgia games, man, I am like 6-0 in Georgia games. When I
am like 0-6, so I get it.
You keep taking the dogs.
Well, I'm taking the dogs here, and I'm talking about the Hogs that are dogs, and I am taking Arkansas at plus 17 on the road in Florida in the swamp. I don't care. I like Arkansas.
I like Arkansas too. I think they have covered so far every game.
They have.
And you know what? I need to have at least one dog on my cards. I'll hop on it for 10. Put me down for Arkansas. I do like this Gators team, but if we're looking at letdown spots, this might be the letdown spot. Yeah. Big game, like huge rivalry.
And Arkansas is really good.
They're looking really comfortable now.
Yeah.
So they might kind of lay back here, and I do think Arkansas is a pretty damn good team. Yeah, I like it. That's a big number. So count me in on that dog.
I love it. All right, I have two more bets. They're both favorites. We might agree on them. I'm going to rattle mine off, and then I'll let you go because just in case.
I only have one more bet, and then I would just want to get back to that Indiana game that I got cut out of.
Okay, gotcha. I have NC State minus 9.5 over Florida State. A lot of it has to do with the fact that I think Florida State has given up. I do think that Bailey Hockman was unreal last week against Miami, and I don't necessarily think that that's going to continue to be the case, but that's what I saw there. And I have Arizona State minus 3.5 over. Why can I not find this game? Over Cal. Arizona State, again, I think Arizona State, since we've been doing this podcast, has been like one of our favorite teams to kind of bet because they play good defense. And I think that against the Cal team, I just like Arizona State in this matchup. It's the only Pac-12 game other than the Arizona one that I'm going with, and I do feel more confident in this one. I'm doing 15 on this, where the other one I just did 10.
See, I like Arizona State, and like I said, I like Jaden Daniels a whole lot, and I think they're a well-coached team. My fear, this was when I looked at Cal as an underdog. Cal did not get to play last week, though, and that's what kind of scared me out of it. They have a great defense, really good, so Arizona State might not be able to score. Cal on offense is kind of a question mark. I know they have that QB it's like Garbers or whatever. They have some stat where like when he starts, they're undefeated, but like it's just this crazy stat that he's not really that great of a quarterback. So I don't really know what to expect from Cal. So that's one I actually looked at Cal. I was like, them getting 3.5 with that defense is probably your play there. But then my principal, I can't go against my principal where it's, Arizona State has a full 60 minutes in against a pretty damn good USC team. At least I think so. And Cal has played nada. So I'm not going to take that game. You want to go with one more, or are you good?
I did both mine, and then NC State minus 9.5 was mine.
Oh, right. I mean, yeah, that's one where it's like the favorite jumped out to me, but I couldn't. Like, there's no way I'm gonna bet Florida State, and I don't want to bet NC State because I'm gonna watch NC State play, and I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, how did they do what they did to Miami when they're losing to Florida State right now? And I just know that's gonna happen. So I got one more.
What do you got?
ACC. UNC, Wake Forest. I have here the over 66. I got 15 on it. I like this one a lot. I think we've kind of like forgotten about UNC since they lost to Florida State, and then they also lost to UVA. So like they're not really a relevant team in the national conversation. But Sam Howell and that offense have been playing really well. If you look at S&P Plus, they have the number 6 offense in the country, which is insane, but their offense has been putting up great numbers since that Florida State game. They've put up at least 43 points in all those games. So that offense is clicking. So I feel pretty confident here about UNC getting into the 40s, especially against a Wake Forest defense that hasn't been really scary all season. So I don't know. I feel like if UNC is going to get me to at least 42, maybe 45, maybe they even get into the 50s, Wake Forest doesn't need to put that many points on the board. And Wake Forest is averaging 37 points per game. And I know, UNC's defense isn't terrible or anything, but Wake Forest can push the ball. They're on like a 4-game win streak right now. They're actually having a pretty nice season themselves, going under the radar. So for me, I just see points in this game. I see Sam Howell having his way with that Wake Forest defense. And then Wake Forest, again, I just think they're a team that's used to scoring. They have looked good on offense all season long. 37 points per game is nothing to laugh at. So I do like this going over pretty comfortably here, 66 points.
I have this as one of my paid plays. I won't say what the bet is, but I do like Wake Forest and North Carolina to both score points. I do. I think that Wake Forest has been a missed team, I think, by the betting public this year. I think people have just kind of ignored them too much. So that's what I have to say about that. Get back to what you want to say about Indiana, and then let's round this thing.
Yeah, I was halfway through it. I guess I'm kind of back here internet-wise, but Indiana minus 10, 3-0. Like you said, we want to give these teams credit, and the teams that are 3-0, that means something to them. And you're saying, look, Penn State, if they're giving up, if Michigan's giving up, this is their time. So I do believe that. That's what this pick is about. And then you look at Michigan State. They're a team that could easily be throwing in the towel also. With a loss to Rutgers in a blowout loss to Iowa last week, they might be sitting there like, hey, we beat our rival Michigan. That's pretty much the only goal we had this season anyway. This team really didn't have much hopes coming into the season with their first-year coach. They have a new system all the way around the ball. So I just think Michigan State, what are they playing for at this point? They already beat Michigan. That is their Super Bowl. So I don't know. It seems like this is the perfect spot for Indiana to take care of business, blow this team out. So if it's only at -7, that seems weird to me because I literally saw this today at -10, and a 3-point drop means something's up. So if you are going to bet this, definitely look for if there's an injury on Indiana's defense, like you said, Penix Jr. looks like he's still in. So I don't know. Maybe there's a weather thing where no points are going to be scored and 10 points is just too much together. I'm going to look into this after the podcast.
Maybe it's going to snow. I mean, seriously, who knows? That could be a situation.
Who knows? Indiana has something to play for this season in Michigan State right now. They've already done it. They've already done what they came to do this season. And that Iowa game, man, whew, it's like 49-3.
49-7.
Michigan State is. What are you doing? So I don't see them getting up for Indiana.
I hear you, man. I absolutely hear you. So let's rattle through what we have here. I have Wisconsin -4, which I don't think we really talked about, but I do have them at -4. Kentucky -16.5. Kentucky Vandy under 42. Coastal -10.5. BC +14. Arizona +14.5 going against you. Arkansas +17. NC State -9.5 and Arizona State -3.5. If you want more of my picks, check out the forum site link. We're up about 12 units overall if you take our player props and our NFL game bets over the last 4 weeks. So it's been a really good time over there. So make sure to check that out in the link below. Will, what are your bets? And of course he dies. He dies right when we need him to live. This is his time to shine. And what does he do? He chokes it away. That's what he does.
Am I back? Am I here?
You're back. Tell us your plays.
Coastal Carolina -10.5. Indiana -10. Miami Virginia Tech under 67.5. Vandy Kentucky under 42. UNC Wake over 66. Notre Dame -13.5. You can get it under 14. That's going to be a good bet for you. USC -14, and my dog, Arkansas +17. Remember, go to betbuds.net, sign up, save money, have more fun, bet with friends, do all that. Phil, you're having fun on BetBuds, right?
I love it. It's the best. It's so great, and I don't have to pay an extra 10%, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
The amount we bet, you would have lost a lot of money in the juice. We were on 12 games, just $20 each, back and forth. It was awesome.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And if you guys should check it out, if you're big on betting, look into it. It's a lot of fun. And otherwise, we will see you all next week.
See ya.